The silence in the house was the first warning. After a week on the road for a business trip, I expected chaos, the sound of cartoons, the pitter-patter of small feet. Instead, there was nothing. I found my 5-year-old daughter, Lily, alone. Her face was flushed, a feverish red against her pale skin, and she was burning up. I rushed her to the hospital, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. In the car, and then in the stark white of the emergency room, I called her mother, Isabel, again and again. Each call went to a dead, echoing voicemail. Hours later, as I sat numbly in a plastic chair, her phone finally called back. But it wasn't her voice. It was his. Julian. Her first love, the one she swore was a ghost of the past. "Bella's in the shower," he said, his voice smooth and unconcerned. "Can I help you with something?" I clutched my daughter's favorite strawberry-scented bear, its plush fabric worn from years of love. My own voice was a low, chilling whisper. "Tell her to come back and sign the divorce papers." I sat on the living room sofa, the same bear in my lap, my gaze fixed on the divorce agreement laid out on the coffee table. The air was cold, sterile. I once believed Isabel and I would be forever. How could I not? I loved her with everything I had. We had built a life, a home, and together we had our beautiful, clever Lily. But reality has a brutal way of shattering fantasies. Isabel had left our 5-year-old daughter home alone, sick and vulnerable, so she could go help her old flame, Julian, edit his doctoral thesis. Our daughter's fever had spiked, climbing. So high she passed out. When she finally stirred, her first weak word was "Mama." But Isabel never answered my calls. Our daughter died without ever seeing her mother's face one last time. My eyes drifted to the wedding photo on the wall. A smiling, happy couple stared back at me, frozen in a moment that now felt like a lie. When I first met Isabel, she was a ghost, haunted by a past love. Julian had not only cheated on her, but he had also conned her out of every penny she had. The betrayal had shattered her, plunging her into a deep depression. I was the one who pulled her back into the light. I took her on trips to the coast, helped her find a new job, and slowly, painstakingly, helped her rediscover her love for life. It was Isabel who proposed to me. She said she was ready. "Have you really let go of that past?" I had asked, needing to be sure. She nodded, her eyes clear and certain. "I have. Ethan, I want to build a real life with you." But what a fragile promise that turned out to be. The moment Julian returned to the country, her heart, which I thought was mine, was torn away. Isabel started coming home later and later. The time she spent with Lily dwindled to almost nothing. Every morning, Lily would wake up and ask for her, only to be met with a rushed excuse. She would run to Isabel, her little arms outstretched for a hug, only to be gently but firmly pushed away. "Mommy's helping Uncle Julian with his important paper, sweetie. Don't make a mess." I had confronted her, my voice tight with frustration. "You told me you had let go. What is this?" Isabel had waved away my concern with an airy hand. "Don't be paranoid. I'm just helping a friend." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Helping the man who had cheated and abandoned her. What a saint. I stared at the woman in the photograph, my hand clenching into a fist until my nails dug into my palm. The joy on our faces that day was now a blinding, mocking glare. Perhaps we were a mistake from the start. Then Lily would never have been born into a family with such a reckless mother. A wave of grief washed over me, hot and sharp. She was so bright, so full of life. Just 5 years old. And Isabel had left her all alone. Anger surged through me again. I snatched my phone and dialed Isabel's number, which had been silent for 7 days. It went unanswered. As I was about to search for a private investigator, the phone rang. It was her number, but his voice. "Hello? Looking for Bella?" Julian asked casually. "She's still in the shower. You can tell me, and I'll pass it on." My grip on the phone tightened. "Tell her to get on a plane and come back to sign the divorce papers," I said, my voice like ice. From the background, I could hear Isabel's distant voice. She told me not to be dramatic, that she would be home once she was done with her work. I ended the call with a sharp click and immediately hired a hacker to trace the phone's location. Half an hour later, I had it. A hotel in Seattle. She wasn't on a work trip. Her boss had confirmed she'd taken personal leave, and she was with him. By the time my flight landed and I got to the hotel, the sun was rising. I saw them emerge from the lobby, Isabel's arm linked cozily with Julian's. Our eyes met across the driveway. A frown creased her forehead. "Ethan, what are you doing here? I told you I'd be back when I was finished." I glanced at Julian, then through the manila envelope containing the divorce agreement at her feet. "Sign it. We're done." She stared at me, her brow furrowed in annoyance. Stop being so dramatic, Ethan. You're being too sensitive. She tried to soften her tone. There's nothing going on between Julian and me. She picked up the envelope, pushed it back into my hands, and said, Since you're here, why don't you join us for breakfast? It's Julian's birthday. We were just about to celebrate, and then we were planning to head back. Her explanation was smooth, rehearsed. But then, without missing a beat, she shifted gears. You know, your friend's company you visited last week? Weren't you saying they're hiring? Julian has a doctorate now, a great education. You should ask your friend to find him a suitable position, or maybe even a place at your company. Julian, standing beside her, made a show of protesting. Oh, I couldn't possibly ask for that. Bella, I've already imposed on you so much. It's no trouble at all, Isabel said, nudging my arm. Just a quick phone call for you. When I didn't respond, she frowned and pulled me aside. Ethan, what is wrong with you today? I held up the divorce papers again. Before I could speak, Julian let out a pained gasp and doubled over, clutching his stomach. Isabel rushed to his side instantly. Julian, what is it? Is it your stomach again? She supported him with a frantic tenderness, her face a mask of concern. The sight was a bitter, ironic spectacle. If she had shown even a fraction of that care for our own daughter, Lily would still be alive. I stared at her, my heart filled with a mix of disappointment and rage. It was true, then. Not everyone is meant to be a mother. Julian, still on the ground, put on a brave face. I'm fine. Bella, don't worry about me. I'll go to the hospital myself. You should go with Ethan. I can see he's angry. Don't be silly, Julian. I'm taking you to the hospital, she insisted. She turned to me. You saw what happened. I have to get him to the emergency room. You can either go home or find something to eat. I ignored her and stepped directly in front of her, holding out the papers and a pen. Sign them, and I'll be gone. Her patience finally snapped. Do you have any idea how busy I've been these past few days? I don't have time to keep explaining things to you over and over again. As she helped Julian into a taxi, she threw one last comment over her shoulder. You've changed, Ethan. You never used to be like this. Of course, I had changed. My daughter was gone. How could I ever be the same man again? How could I smile and speak calmly to the person who played a part in her death? After Lily passed, the doctor told me with a heavy sigh that if she had been brought in sooner, they could have saved her. But Isabel, with her mind and heart completely consumed by her old flame, had never even noticed our daughter was sick. Sitting in my rental car, I stared at a photo of Lily on my phone until my eyes burned. A message from Isabel buzzed on the screen. She said she had just seen my text from the past week. She asked if Lily was okay. 7 days. Lily's funeral was over, and she was only now asking. I didn't reply. She called. I didn't answer. After the third missed call, she left a string of angry voice messages. Ethan, can't you have a little understanding? I've been working day and night. Is it so strange that I missed a few messages? Do you have to be so petty and childish? I let out a hollow laugh. Her work was polishing Julian's thesis. The person who needed understanding wasn't me. Her messages continued. I just called Lily's phone, and she's not picking up. Did you tell her not to talk to me? Ethan, you've gone too far. Calling Lily? Lily's watch had run out of battery the day Isabel left, a detail she had failed to notice. Now our daughter was gone, and all that remained were her belongings. And photographs. As I listened to Isabel's furious, clueless messages, a cold thought crossed my mind. What expression would she wear when she finally learned the truth? I sat in the car for hours, watching the hotel entrance. As evening fell, Isabel and Julian returned, walking side by side. I got out, agreement in hand, and followed them inside. When Isabel saw me, a flicker of surprise crossed her face, quickly replaced by a composed mask. I thought you would have left by now. Just then, the receptionist smiled at Julian. No rose for your wife today, sir? You've been so romantic, bringing her one every single day of your stay. You two make such a beautiful, well-matched couple. Julian waved his hands in a flustered gesture, but his eyes, when they met mine, were full of smug provocation. Ethan, don't misunderstand. The roses were just a thank you for Bella's help. You don't need to explain anything to me. I cut him off. It has nothing to do with me. Isabel shot me a reproachful look, but moderated her tone. We weren't staying in the same room. The flowers were just a polite gesture of thanks. Don't let your imagination run wild. Her excuses felt pointless, meaningless. My anger had cooled into a flat, calm emptiness. I'm not imagining anything. She tugged at my sleeve. Oh, I know you. You say you're not, but your mind is running through 1,000 different scenarios. She added, but really, there is nothing between Julian and me. You can't just assume the worst. The receptionist looked increasingly awkward. Her eyes widened when I once again presented the divorce papers to Isabel, urging her to sign. Isabel's face paled, then flushed with anger. She lowered her voice to a hiss. Can't this wait until we get home? Why do you insist on making a scene and embarrassing me in front of everyone? The more she bristled, the more Julian seemed to enjoy the spectacle. She tried to pull me away, but at that exact moment, a woman called her name. It was one of Isabel's colleagues, also in town for business. The timing was disastrously perfect. The three of us were frozen in a tangled, awkward tableau. Isabel was the first to recover. Oh, hi. What a coincidence to see you here, she said, forcing a smile. This is my husband's friend, Julian. We were just meeting up. I know, her colleague said, her expression tinged with sadness. She walked over and patted Isabel's shoulder gently. It's good to spend time with friends when you're going through something difficult. But you have to look forward, Isabel. You and Ethan are still young. You can always have another child. Isabel stared at her, completely bewildered. Her colleague continued, her voice soft with sympathy. Lily wouldn't blame you. It's just such a tragedy, losing a child to a fever like that. What? The last few words cut through Isabel's confusion. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. What do you mean, lost to a fever? Her gaze snapped to me, wide and questioning. I simply stared back, my expression cold and full of scorn. Everyone knew. Even her colleague on a business trip knew. But the girl's own mother was the last to find out. The colleague, realizing her mistake, stammered, Lily, she passed away. Isabel's small handbag slipped from her grasp and hit the floor with a soft thud. Her eyes were filled with utter disbelief. Passed away. Ethan. Her voice, when it came, was a raw, trembling shriek. Lily passed away. How were you taking care of her? And why didn't you tell me sooner? Tears streamed down her face, her eyes so red they looked like they might bleed. She was hysterical, screaming accusations at me. Julian tried to calm her down, but she shoved him away with surprising force. He stumbled and fell, but she didn't even seem to notice. She grabbed my arm and dragged me out of the hotel. Once outside, I wrenched my arm from her grip. She was falling apart, trying to catch her breath, but the reality of our daughter's death was too much. She tore at her hair and kicked off her high heels, sending them skittering across the pavement. Her breathing was ragged, her words choked with sobs. Why didn't you tell me? Why does everyone else know? But I, her mother, I'm the last one. I watched her collapse into a heap of tears, my voice devoid of any warmth. You remember you're her mother now? You realize you were the last to know? I asked mockingly. Do you even know what day she died? It was the night you ran off to help Julian with his thesis. Isabel froze, her head snapping up. Fueled by a fresh wave of fury, I continued, my teeth clenched. Her fever was raging. When I got home from my trip, she was delirious, calling for her mama. She wanted to call you, but her watch was dead. And you? You knew nothing. That night, Lily's small, limp body had grown cold and stiff in my arms. Her once rosy cheeks had turned a deathly pale. The memory of her bright, laughing face was a constant, unbearable torment. I looked away, my own eyes burning. The doctor said that if we had found her sooner, she would still be here. This is on you, Isabel. She let out a gut-wrenching wail. No, I knew you were coming home that day. That's why I left. I didn't know she was sick. You should have told me. I scoffed, my eyes red with unshed tears. I did. I called you. I texted you that Lily was sick. And what did you do? You ignored everything and vanished. There were too many messages, they got buried. But the calls, Isabel wiped her tears and fumbled for her phone, scrolling frantically through her call history. I had called her over 100 times. Some calls were rejected, others simply ignored. See, I said, my voice flat. I tried to reach you. The words caught in her throat. Finally, she broke down again. I was rejecting the calls because I was so focused on Julian's thesis. I didn't want to be disturbed. And you were always so jealous of him. I thought you were just calling to start a fight. I laughed. 3 months ago, Isabel had let Julian move in with us, claiming he had nowhere else to go. One night, I came home late from work to find Isabel out, and only Julian at home with Lily. As I was tucking Lily into bed, I noticed a series of small, ugly bruises on her arm, shaped like fingerprints. It took a long time for her to tell me, her small body trembling as she whispered that Uncle Julian had squeezed her arm really hard. How could I not have a bad attitude towards a man who would hurt my child? I threw him out of the house, but Isabel accused me of being petty and heartless. I showed her the bruises on Lily's arm. She dismissed them, saying that kids are always bumping into things and getting bruised. Julian played the part of the wounded victim perfectly, standing by the door with his suitcase. Bella knows I love children more than anything. I would never hurt. Lily, he said, his voice full of feigned sorrow. If Ethan doesn't want me here, he could have just said so instead of making up such a terrible accusation. That was all it took. Isabel's heart broke for him. I said you can stay, so you're staying, she declared, pushing past me to grab his suitcase. Julian added, for good measure, Bella, don't. Ethan is already sensitive about our past. That sealed it. Isabel glared at me. Ethan, your jealousy has a limit. Using our daughter as an excuse, after all these years, I can't believe you don't trust me. But it was she who didn't trust me. It was she who, time and time again, chose to believe the lies of her past love over her own family. I was tired. So incredibly tired. The hand gripping the divorce papers finally relaxed. I looked at her, my voice calm and final. Just sign them. There's no point in dragging this out any longer. There's nothing left. Isabel wept, begging me not to do this. I tossed the agreement to her and turned to leave. Barefoot, she ran after me, pleading. In the past, no matter what mistake she made, I would always soften, always forgive. But not this time. This was unforgivable. I couldn't forgive her. I wouldn't. But I had underestimated the sheer thickness of her skin. I drove back to our empty house and collapsed into bed, falling into a deep, exhausted sleep. When I woke up, Isabel was there. She had cleaned the entire house until it sparkled and had cooked a full dinner. Seeing me awake, she approached cautiously. You must be hungry. I made all your favorites. I glanced at the 4 dishes and soup on the table, but said nothing. Her expression crumpled, her eyes red and swollen. She nervously rubbed her fingers, which were blistered from hot oil. I had never let her cook after we were together. I had always been the one to wash and cut the fruit for her. When I didn't react, her eyes welled up again. If you don't have an appetite, I can cut up some fruit for you. As she turned towards the kitchen, I stopped her. If you're done, we need to talk about us. She didn't turn around, mumbling that she wasn't finished yet. She stayed in the kitchen, busying herself, washing an already clean bowl a dozen times. It was a pathetic, infuriating sight. I strode over and grabbed her arm. Stop pretending, I said bluntly. Did you read the divorce agreement? The house is yours, the car is mine, and we split the rest of the assets. I tore it up, she said, finally meeting my gaze. Her nose was red, her voice thick with emotion. Ethan, can we please just try to be a family again? I found out where Lily is buried. I went to see her today. I apologized to her. I am so sorry. My carelessness destroyed our family. But can you please give me one more chance? I'll listen to you from now on. You don't like Julian, so I'll keep my distance from him, okay? So she knew. She knew all along what the real problem was. I didn't answer. I went back to the bedroom and returned with 2 more identical copies of the agreement. We're adults. Let's end this without more drama. Isabel stared at the documents, then lunged forward and ripped them to shreds. She threw her arms around my waist, her body racked with sobs. Ethan, please don't do this to me. I promise I'll never make you sad again. Please don't divorce me. This was her pattern. Whenever she was wrong, she would use tears and affection to smooth things over. But Lily's death was a line that could not be uncrossed. She continued to cry. Ethan, I truly know I was wrong. Why can't you give me one more chance? You used to say you loved me more than anything. At our wedding, you promised you would always be patient with me. Yes, I had. From the day we met, my love for her had only grown. I had promised to love and cherish her, to tolerate all her little quirks. And what did I get in return? I lost the most precious person in my life. I took a breath and gently pushed her away. It's over, Isabel. We're finished. I packed a suitcase. Isabel sat slumped on the floor, watching me with vacant eyes. Are you really leaving? I nodded and pulled several more intact copies of the divorce agreement from my luggage. A strange, broken sound escaped her lips, half laugh, half sob. You were so determined to divorce me that you prepared so many copies. You knew I would make a scene, didn't you? She asked. Aren't you worried I'll just tear these up too? I shook my head. It won't change anything. Isabel sniffled and wiped her tears away with the back of her hand. Give me a pen. I handed it to her and watched her sign her name. We'll go to the courthouse in a month to finalize it, I said. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. As I walked to the door, she called out to me. It's so late. Please, Just stay here for one more night. I paused. At that moment, a loud clap of thunder rattled the windows. Isabel had her excuse. She scrambled up from the floor and ran to me. There's a storm outside. It's not safe to drive. Just stay for tonight. Another flash of lightning lit up the room, and she flinched. She had always been terrified of thunderstorms, but now she forced a smile. Let's go back. The food is getting cold. I hesitated. The storm outside was genuinely fierce. I agreed to leave in the morning. Later that night, as I lay in the guest room, the door creaked open. Isabel slipped into the room and slid into bed beside me. Before I could tell her to leave, she whispered, "Ethan, I'm scared. The thunder is so loud." I stared at her silhouette in the darkness. The storm had passed. There was no thunder. It was just an excuse. She clutched my pajamas, refusing to let go no matter how much I tried to push her away. I had never imagined she could be so shameless. I lay awake all night, rigid and silent. The next morning, I left with my suitcase. "You're not staying for breakfast?" she asked, as if nothing had happened. With dark circles under my eyes, I walked out the door without a word. I rented an apartment near my office. I thought our only remaining interaction would be at the courthouse, but Isabel started a new campaign. She sent flowers and pastries to my office every day. She waited for me by the entrance after work. I would ignore her, but she would follow me home, chattering incessantly about her day, about the new recipe she tried, about everything and nothing. When she saw my deepening frown, she would quickly switch topics. "Do you like the flowers? If not, I can get a different kind tomorrow." I finally stopped at my apartment door and blocked her way. "Stop wasting your time. It's impossible for us." My words hit their mark. A wounded look crossed her face. I ignored it. I couldn't afford to care. I shut the door in her face. From the other side, she called out, "I won't give up, Ethan. You can stop loving me, but you can't stop me from trying to win you back. That's my right." The next day, the deliveries and surprises continued. My colleagues were envious, telling me how lucky I was to have such a romantic wife. But those who knew the truth just shook their heads. A little too late for all this, isn't it? Now that her daughter is gone and her marriage is broken, she decides to make an effort. Half a month passed. The grand gestures continued, but on the day of Lily's birthday, the flowers didn't arrive. Instead, I received a text message asking me to come home. She wanted to celebrate our daughter's birthday. My first instinct was to refuse, but then she sent me a video from last year. It was of Lily, smiling brightly as she made a wish over her cake. "I wish Mommy and Daddy will celebrate my birthday with me every year," she had said, her voice sweet and her eyes sparkling. Watching the video, I couldn't help but smile, but the smile quickly faded as my eyes filled with tears. I missed my daughter. I missed the way she would call me Daddy, the way she would hold out her arms to be picked up. I didn't refuse Isabel this time. We left the office together that afternoon. Halfway home, Isabel suddenly remembered we hadn't bought a gift. "Lily loved her dolls and her Ultraman figures," she said. "Can we go buy her something now?" Of course, we had to. A birthday wasn't a birthday without a gift. We went to the mall and bought not only toys, but also all of Lily's favorite snacks. Back at the house, we lit the candles on a cake and sang "Happy Birthday," but our voices cracked and the tune faltered. Isabel was the first to break down, her body shaking with sobs as she fell into my arms. "Ethan, I'm sorry. I am so sorry to you and to Lily," she cried. "For weeks, I've been pretending to be happy, to be normal, but at night, I miss her so much it physically hurts. I cry myself to sleep. I regret everything. Why didn't I notice she was sick? Why did I forget to charge her watch?" She wept with a raw, desperate grief. My own heart felt like it was being torn apart, but none of this needed to happen. I gently pushed her away. "If you're truly sorry, then go visit her more often." "I will," she sobbed. "We can go right now, Ethan. I'm sure Lily wants to see us." Just as she said that, her phone rang. It was Julian. His voice was urgent. "Bella, are you free? I've run into a huge problem at work, and I need to have a solution for my boss by tomorrow. Can you please come and help me?" Isabel glanced at me, then explained, "I quit my job. He took over my position. He really needs this job." The implication was clear. She wanted to go help him. "What about Lily?" I asked. "Just give me a little while, okay? I'll be back soon, and then we'll go see her together." I didn't respond, just gave a non-committal shrug. "Go ahead." As she was leaving, she looked back one more time. "I promise I'll be right back." Her repeated assurances were almost laughable. We were about to be legally divorced. There was no need for promises. After she left, I cleaned up the table and tidied the house. As I was about to sit down, a message arrived from her. Sorry, Ethan. I won't be able to make it back tonight. Let's go see Lily together tomorrow. Reading the text, I felt nothing. It was exactly what I had expected. I looked around the room one last time. This would be the last time I ever came back here. I picked up my coat and left. The next day, Isabel resumed her routine of sending flowers and surprises. She texted me, saying she wanted to go to the cemetery to see Lily. I didn't respond. When she didn't see me after work, she texted again, asking where I was. I still didn't reply. She started explaining what had happened the night before. I promise, yesterday was the last time I will ever see Julian. I remained silent. And so it went, day after day. The next time we met was at the courthouse. She had lost weight. She looked exhausted and gaunt, her eyes red and swollen. She called my name, her voice trembling. She ran up to me and tugged at my sleeve, her eyes pleading. Can you please give me one last chance? I took a step back, creating distance between us. Let's go in. I have another appointment soon. Isabel's face fell, but she followed me inside. The process was quick. With the divorce certificate in my hand, I turned and walked out. She hurried after me. Ethan, even though we're divorced, I'm still going to keep trying. I'll send you flowers and pastries. I will win you back. I stopped, and she bumped into me. I turned, and my eyes fell on a delicate bracelet on her wrist. I recognized it. It was a gift from Julian. I had seen it in a photo she'd posted online. In the past, the sight would have filled me with a bitter jealousy. Now, I felt nothing. Perhaps it was because I no longer loved her. Perhaps it was because I had finally let go. Before I could speak, she said, "This is an old thing. I forgot to take it off." She fumbled with the clasp, pulling it off and stuffing it in her pocket. "It won't happen again. We're not together anymore, Isabel. You don't have to explain anything to me." I paused. We had been married, after all. There was one last thing I felt I had to say. Julian is not as simple as you think. She looked confused, then said, "Ethan, the problems between you and Julian are my fault. I never explained properly. He didn't actually cheat on me back then. He broke up with me because he was misdiagnosed with a terminal illness and didn't want to be a burden. And my money. He said his friends scammed him out of it too." I didn't wait to hear the rest. I turned and walked away. If she wanted to believe his lies, that was her choice. It had nothing to do with me anymore. I got in my car and drove off. I could hear her calling my name behind me, but her voice was faint. The general sentiment was that she would keep pursuing me. Let her waste her time. Back at the office, I had my secretary book a flight. I decided to spend the next few years overseas, exploring new markets and expanding the business. I also instructed her to block all calls and messages from Isabel. I changed my number and all my social media accounts. It was time for a fresh start. Before I left, I went to see Lily one last time. There was a fresh bouquet of flowers in front of her tombstone. Someone had been there today. I didn't care to wonder who. I just wanted to tell my daughter that it would be a long time before I could visit again. "But Daddy will never forget you," I whispered. "You will always be Daddy's most beloved baby girl." "Sir, we're going to be late for the flight," my secretary reminded me gently. I took one last look, then straightened up. "Let's go." 3 years passed in a blur of meetings and deadlines. My life became a simple, two-point line, office and apartment. Wake up, work, sleep. The hard work paid off. The company's overseas branch was thriving. I had planned to stay longer, but I hadn't seen my daughter in so long. On her birthday, I flew home. My first stop was the cemetery. I brought her beautiful new clothes and a collection of interesting toys I had found on my travels, things I'd seen other children playing with in parks in London and Paris. I thought she would like them. I sat and talked to her for a while. As I was about to leave, I heard someone call my name. I turned. It was Isabel. The change was shocking. 3 years had aged her a decade. She was gaunt, her clothes hanging off her thin frame. She stood there, her eyes red from crying. "You're back." She didn't rush over to hug me like she might have in the past. Perhaps time really was the best medicine. She looked older, but she also seemed calmer, more composed. She walked over, nervously tugging at the hem of her washed-out dress. I glanced at her. "How have you?" "I'm doing well," she interrupted. "I'm doing very well. When I have free time, I come here to talk to Lily." I nodded curtly and started to walk past her. She called out again, her voice soft. "I won't bother you anymore." "Good. That's how it should have been all along." I didn't reply. I just kept walking. I could hear her start to cry behind me, a broken, desperate sound. But I felt nothing. I had truly let go. Back at my office, My secretary wilted under my prolonged stare. I, I just felt so bad for Miss Jiang, she confessed, wiping a bead of sweat from her forehead. So I might have mentioned, just a tiny bit, about you coming back. I finally looked away, and she let out a sigh of relief. I asked, my voice neutral, about Isabel's current situation. The secretary sighed. Sir, you have no idea. Julian scammed her again. He took everything. Just like before, Isabel was left with nothing. She had even sold the house. And you wouldn't believe the nerve of that guy. He told Miss Jiang to her face that manipulating her was as easy as training a dog. My secretary's voice trailed off as she watched my expression. Seeing nothing, she quickly made an excuse and left. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the traffic below. It seems that only through repeated, crushing disappointment can a person truly grow. I murmured Julian's name under my breath. I may have been done with Isabel, but what he did to my daughter, that was a debt he still had to pay. I had my secretary investigate his recent activities. He had started a company with a few friends, right here in my city. I didn't know where he found the audacity. Now that I knew, it was time for it to fail. Not only that, I wanted him to know what it felt like to be powerless and scorned. A few weeks later, my secretary reported back. It's all taken care of, sir. She detailed just how miserable Julian's life had become. I listened, then dismissed her. On my way home that evening, I saw Isabel. She saw me too, but she didn't approach. She just offered a small, distant smile. It was for the best. I wished her peace in her future, and I would find peace in mine.